Hillary Clinton flapping her jaw. Former CIA Director John Brennan saying that the president should be impeached over his press conference. These people are so full of hatred and other things that they are a disgrace to themselves and to this country. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. Do you remember when President Obama said, "I told Putin to knock it off"? We have no record of that. There was a press story today, and it struck me that President Obama never had a one-on-one summit with Putin. Not one time. This is the first time in 10 years that an American president has had a one-on-one summit with a Russian leader. Hillary misspells buttons. Hillary goes with a reset button. These people are a joke. And they were loaded for bear. You have to understand that the vitriol, the hatred, the slime that is coming out of them and being hurled at the president is because it doesn't matter what President Trump says. It doesn't matter what he does. They are going to criticize it. Anderson Cooper saying it's the worst performance he'd ever seen a president make. I watched it. I've been watching press conferences, presidential summits for decades, okay? And President Trump was not going to do the song and dance that the media wanted him to do. What they wanted him to do was to impeach his own presidency, to ridicule, to undermine his own presidency by saying, yeah, Russia really was meddling. You know, and then where does he go? If President Trump had said that he believed Strzok, the FBI guy, who clearly has hatred for Trump, if he'd have said he believed James Comey, who was a lying, duplicitous, stop with adjectives, Randall, if he'd have said that he believed them, the ones that were trying to destroy him, the ones that were trying to keep him from getting elected, okay? The deep state trying to get Trump defeated. If he'd have said he believed them, then what? Then he's making an admission that his presidency is illegitimate, that maybe he wouldn't have won without Russia's help. It was a lose-lose proposition. So when the president was asked, did he believe Putin or believe his own intelligence officials, President Trump dodged the question. Artfully, I might add. Now, he's not making the Democrats happy, but he just said, look, I trust my intelligence people, but where's the server? Where's the Democratic server? Where's Hillary's 33,000 emails? There's no evidence of collusion between me and Russia, and yet they keep going after it. But they haven't been able to find Hillary's emails. You've got FBI agent Strzok, who was a key player to try and defeat Trump, mocking the system. Did you see that piece of garbage? Did you see the footage of him? Did you see his expressions, his contempt? So what was the president going to do? It was a setup from square one. It was a setup from square one. And so the president said, I believe that Putin wasn't involved. And maybe Putin wasn't. The truth of the matter is there are low-level agents that are doing stuff in the United States, for the United States, in other countries, for the United States, that our president has no knowledge of whatsoever. And the AP reporter had the gall, the unmitigated gall, to ask President Putin if he had something on Trump, if he could blackmail him. That's what they're asking. Do you see the absurdity of it? Let's say for a second that he did, that Putin did have something, which I don't believe he does, but let's say he did. What's he going to say? Yes, you should see the pictures we have. There, if you remember, I won't even repeat the allegations, but before the election, there were allegations that came out that ultimately proved to be completely 100% false, okay? 100% false. But they got their day or two in the media cycle about Trump when he was a private citizen in Russia, and it turns out that it was just a total fabrication, a total lie. And yet they brought it up again at an international press conference with President Trump face to face with Vladimir Putin. These are lowlifes. They're lowlifes. It was a lose-lose for Trump. It's like asking a politician, Mr. Senator, have you stopped beating your wife? I don't beat my wife. Senator Smith denies beating his wife. It's a trap. It was a trap from square one, and he refused to go into the trap. And I respect him for it. So you've got people howling and whining from the left and from the right. Nancy Pelosi, that piece of work, saying that she thinks Putin has something on him. What are we talking about here? These are people who hate the president. When we come back from this break, I'm going to read you the tweets that he sent out because they're actually funny and they're true. And I'll read you Hillary's, okay? And you get to be the judge who's the villain here. I'm Randall Terry. Don't go away. Warrior guitars. Without question, the best guitar I've ever played, heard, or seen is a Warrior. The owner of Warrior, Jay Dran, has an incredible testimony of redemption and healing. God gave him the vision to start Warrior Guitars and a passion to make the best guitars in the world. They only make about 120 guitars a year, each one by hand. Maybe one of them could be yours, or a once-in-a-lifetime gift for someone you love.
The one thing that I can tell you is this is the most finely crafted guitar I have ever held. I've played a lot of guitars, I own a lot of guitars, and although the quality is exceptional on all of them, this is by far the most finely crafted instrument I own or have ever played. And I'm glad I own it.
Contact my friends at Warrior Guitar. Tell them Randall Terry sent you. Welcome back, friend. You know, I'm a Christian, and it is a real problem when we allow hatred or bitterness to creep into our souls. And it's a struggle that I've had for many years, I'm being honest with you, because I have spent my entire adult life fighting in the public arena against child killing, against homosexual marriage, so-called, there's no such thing. Been fighting to warn Americans about the danger of Islam and the threat that Muhammad's teachings are to freedom and to Christianity. And a lot of the press, not all of it, thankfully, but a lot of the press has been full of hatred for me. Liars, deceivers, propagandists, collaborators with the child killers. So when I see Hillary Clinton, with whom I go all the way back to 92, okay? When I see Hillary Clinton making statements and the press giving it credence, I have just hatred for what they're doing. The trick for me is to not hate them, but to still hate what they're doing and be willing to fight against it, to speak against it, and to call it for what it is: treacherous garbage, vile, despicable lies. So here's Hillary's tweet. Great World Cup. Question for President Trump as he meets Putin. Do you know which team you play for? Now, this has been strategized by Democratic people, Democrat Party people. This is insinuating that the President of the United States is not loyal to the United States. Can you think of anything more absurd? Now, what the press should be doing is just berating Hillary. What kind of a sore loser, what kind of a pathetic woman are you that you would even suggest this? If President Trump was defeated, he would not be suggesting that Hillary was in the pocket of the Russians, even if she was. But President Trump, by wanting energy independence, he knows he's playing for America, Hillary. President Trump saying no to these Islamic nations where they can't vet what terrorists they might be sending us, he knows he's playing for the American people, Hillary. You wouldn't have done that for the American people. President Trump wanting to put a wall on the southern border to stop the influx of illegal aliens, he's playing for the American people, Hillary. You wouldn't have done that. President Trump trying to get energy independence and giving the go-ahead for the Keystone Pipeline. He knows who he's playing for, Hillary. You wouldn't have done that. So really, Hillary, who are you playing for? You're bought and paid for. Hillary Clinton used her time as Secretary of State to pad the coffers of the Clinton Foundation. Millions and millions of dollars. And the Associated Press made the direct connections. Here's who got to see Hillary. Here was the meeting. Here's the check. Who do you play for, Hillary? Yourself, for the Clinton Foundation, for big money. You don't play for the little guy in America. President Trump does. But she's insinuating, it's so absurd. And the vile, despicable people in the press further the false narrative. Here's what President Trump said before he left, because it's perfect. It was like prophetic. Heading to Helsinki, Finland. Looking forward to meeting with President Putin tomorrow. Unfortunately, no matter how well I do at the summit, if I was given the great city of Moscow as retribution for all the sins and evils committed by Russia, ... over the years, I would return to criticism that it wasn't enough, that I should have gotten St. Petersburg in addition. Much of our news media is indeed the enemy of the people, and all the Dems know how to do is resist and obstruct. That's all they know how to do. And all the Dems know how to do is to resist and obstruct. That is why there is such hatred and dissension in our country. But at some point, it will heal. I hope it does heal. But he called it. He called it spot on. There was no way that the despicable people at CNN, the despicable scum at CNN, were going to say that President Trump did a good job. There was no chance. So when you watch what's going on, oh, but I got to read this one because this is great. Gorka, you remember Sebastian Gorka? He was one of the president's advisors on terrorism, and he responded. He said, "Given you, Hillary, paid $12 million to Christopher Steele for a dossier full of Kremlin propaganda, we all know whose team you play for." Now, why didn't that comment get the press coverage that it deserved? Hillary's campaign paid for a dossier full of lies. They knew it was a lie, and they paid for it because they knew that they could use it to try and sink Trump's presidential election. But even after his election, now they're using it for the Mueller investigation. And so what did Putin say? Hey, Mueller, want to come on over? We'll let you be in the room while we interrogate these so-called criminals in Russia. I've got to tell you something when I come back because this is great. And I want to thank Rush Limbaugh for it. Don't go away. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, "I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life." Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700 or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Welcome back, friends. So Mueller, on the eve of the summit with Russia, releases 12 indictments of Russian nationals. Does anybody have the decency in the national press to say, oh, come on, this is political. You can't extradite these people. We don't have an extradition treaty. So you're not going to try them. And then what we learned was that Mueller is going to hand them over to the Justice Department, who will then hand it over to some type of a joint task force with the State Department, where issues of illegal activity by foreign spies are dealt with. Have you ever thought about the fact that there's never a trial of a foreign spy in America? You never see it. Doesn't happen. And that's because of the way that the U.S. deals with it and the way that Russia deals with it, right? This is a mutual agreement that they have. So he knew that these indictments would never, ever, 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 ever result in a trial. Never mind that the people would not be extradited. That's laughable. It would never result in a trial. It was all for show. It was all for show. So that people on the ground in Helsinki could ask questions to the president to embarrass the president. It's despicable. And friends, I'm telling you, I know that I'm like a broken record. This is about Roe versus Wade. This is about homosexual marriage. This is about our right to self-defense. This is about Islam. Okay? Those 4 issues, just those 4. The demonic, and by demonic, I mean Satan, Lucifer, the dark angel, whatever you want to call him, and his minions have their tentacles, their hands in child killing, in so-called homosexual marriage, behind Islamic terrorism. They want to disarm people. Satan wants to disarm people because then he knows they can be killed. Satan was involved in disarming the Armenian Christians because then 1 million of them were killed because they didn't have arms to protect themselves. It was satanic. So just those 4 items are so connected to the demonic that, and President Trump is on the right side of all of them. So demons hate him. And people who side with the demons, with the dark side, with Satan, with evil, with child killing, the shedding of innocent blood, people who are involved in the sins that cry out to God, they hate Trump. They want him out of office. They want him to lose the next election. They want him impeached if possible. So there's something that is inherently demonic about what's going on. And President Trump was right. The divisions in our country are so severe. I have a false hope. I might as well tell you what it is. My false hope, maybe it's not false, is that the godless media, the demonic media, we call them mainstream media. We should call them demonic media because they're on the side of the demons. Never mind that they're enemies of the American people. They're enemies of righteousness. They're enemies of justice. With every passing day that they don't show the dead babies killed, brutally murdered in America, they are collaborators. They are on the side of demons. My false hope is that they will be so discredited that the American people will just learn to ignore them and to despise what they do. And what would be really too good to be true is if people got up in their faces. You know, you've got Maxine Waters urging people to confront President Trump's staff in public places. Maybe we'll start to see some of the elite with their beautiful makeup and their beautiful hair. Maybe we'll start to see some of them confronted publicly because they're liars, because they're baby killers, because they're evildoers, because they're hypocrites, because they're misogynists, because they are the ones involved in abusing women. Probably a false hope. I want a free press. I have no desire whatsoever to upend the First Amendment, but I will chime in with the president and I'll one-up him. A lot of the press is not just the enemy of the American people. They're the enemies of justice. They're the enemies of life. They're the enemies of righteousness. They're the enemies of the laws of Almighty God himself. God have mercy on them, and may he take away the power of their false prophet office. I'll be right back. What Would Mohammed Do? Islamic Terrorism Explained is the best movie series documentary ever produced on the life of Muhammad and Islam. How do I know? Because it's what critics are saying. John Moore, radio host and author, said, "I learned more from What Would Mohammed Do about Islam and Islamic terrorism than I've learned from everything I ever read and watched in my entire life." Friends, this is what the experts are saying. No one has ever done what we've done. I encourage you to get 1, 2, 4 copies. Call 304-289-3700 or order it at the address or the website that you see on the screen. Friend, we have a series that will help you and those you love to have an impact on this country. It's called Insurrecta Nex. That's Latin for revolution against the killing of innocent people. This is the history, the philosophy, and the theology of social revolution in America. We will send you this 14-part TV series along with these manuals for students, a teacher's facilitator guide for only $40. Go to 304-289-3700, 304-289-3700. Welcome back, friend. One of the grids through which I do this program is in the fear of God because of what matters. Let me give you an illustration. If you could, we live in a very noisy republic. There's a lot going on, a lot in entertainment, a lot in music, a lot of horns honking. There's just a lot going on. This is a very noisy country. And if you could take all of that noise and put it into a funnel and just go higher and higher into the sky, 10 miles, 20, 100 miles, most of the sound would die out. And then eventually all of it would die out. But there's something that doesn't die out. And that's the cry of blood. God hears blood. He hears it. It's crying from the ground. And so when I do this program, I do it mindful of that fact. I can talk about a lot of things, and I do talk about a lot of things. But today, in this country, today, 3,000 people, 3,000 innocent human beings made in the image of God were brutally murdered. They were snuffed out. And all the children and grandchildren they could have had have been wiped out. This is a heinous crime against God. More than any other crime that's going on in this country, that crime is howling. The blood of those babies is howling to God, crying out to God for vengeance, for justice. Now, most of you don't have a TV show. I wish you did. Maybe someday you will. But that principle can still be in effect in your life. There are things that matter. There are things that don't matter that much. There are things that matter a lot. And the final judge of what matters is God. And He has made it clear to us what matters. Look at Matthew 25. I was hungry, you fed me. I was naked, you clothed me. And then He turned to the devil and the goats, and He said, to the goats, and He's on his left, and He said, I was naked and you didn't clothe me. I was hungry and you didn't feed me. Lord, when did we see you hungry or naked? Didn't take care of you. Inasmuch as you did not do it for the least of my brethren, you did not do it for me. Go to be with the devil and his angels. And then He casts them into hell. Okay? So there are things that matter big time to God. And we would do well as Christians to remember that there is a hierarchy of things that matter. They are very incorrect who say that all sins are equal. That is a lie. It is not true. All sins are not equal. There are some sins that are far worse than others. If you steal a pack of gum, shame on you. If you murder someone, you've put yourself where you're going to hell, okay? And you've snuffed out a human being and all the generations that would have come from that human being. All sins are not equal. You don't believe that. And if you've heard it, it's an error. It's a heresy. It's not true. So we as Christians have a duty to the Lord to try and reflect what He tells us, what matters to Him. That's why I focus on the things that I do on this program. And that's why I come full circle. Did President Trump do a perfect job in his first press conference? Probably not. But The hatred against him is demonic in its root because of child killing, homosexual marriage, our right to defend ourselves, and the threat of Islam. I've got to go. I ask you to keep praying for us. We are on the road now, and we'll be sending you some footage. You'll be able to see some of what we did to stand up for the babies. God bless you.